Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Hi there. I want to welcome everybody. My name is Michael Gannotti, and I am your host for today's session, which is HLS Microsoft Teams Week. Microsoft Teams. Oh, I've got the wrong title still here. Accelerating deployment. Take my hat off. Accelerating deployment with our two phenomenal speakers today. You're going to love today's session. Both of our speakers are extremely high energy, super informative, and they're very engaging in their style, which I'm very excited about. So we have today Pouneh Kaufman and Sara Bush, both they're both senior on our teams. We have a principal and a senior. Program or product?
Program.
Program manager. So I want to make sure I get that right. And they'll be sharing with us today. And again, I have a few housekeeping items I need to go through, but I want to encourage you. I already see people doing the shout outs. I'm going to be doing both the production and the hosting duties. So if I lag on some of my responses and publishing, please forgive me. Well, I'm multitasking today. So let's go quickly through some of the items for today before we kick over the presentation. First of all, today's event is brought to you by the Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences Group. You can always visit us at our blog at aka.ms/HLS blog. That's aka.ms/HLS blog. All one word at the end. Please visit us. We post tons of videos. We love to hear requests from you. We do show me hows, etc. Let us know how we can better serve you. Moving on, before we start, a couple of housekeeping items. So first of all, we want to encourage everybody that's attending today, ask questions. This is your time. This isn't our time, it's your time. So ask the questions that are on top of your mind. Today is really, the focus is going to be around accelerating deployment, real world tips and tricks that have been used here at Microsoft, and you're going to hear how things have worked to really transform the field. I mean, it's a whole cultural change. You'll hear about that today, so please ask those questions. Also, just so you understand, all questions are moderated. Again, I'll be seeing those in real time as they come through. You may see a little great question. I'll tee up for the presenters, and that's what I'll be doing, getting those prepared. Doesn't mean we're not answering yours, but they'll be stopping periodically to take those, and then I'll field those questions to them. So, go ahead and do that as well. Also, I see people doing plenty of shout outs. And again, we love shout outs. We love to know who you are and where you're from. Yesterday we had people from Poland, Sweden, Switzerland, etc., in addition to all across the US. So let us know. At the conclusion of this session, just so you know, the webcast recording will be posted to our blog. Again, that's aka.ms/HLS-blog. That's aka.ms/HLS-blog. Now you all can say it. But it'll be there along with any of the resources that are mentioned today. So if there's links and other things, we'll put those up. And now, very quickly, if you don't already know how to engage the Q&A panel, you will see at the top within this session, next to the leave button, there is a little dialog box with a question mark in it. When you select that, if it's not already open, it will open up the Q&A panel. Then down below where it says your name optional, it's optional. You can give us your name. We love to know who you are, but if you're not comfortable, that's okay. Then you can ask your question. And finally, if you're logged in, you can post as anonymous if you prefer, and we don't mind. And that's it. So ask questions, give us shout outs, share away, and with that, I'm going to turn you over to our dynamic duo.
Go team!
So ladies, it's all you. Take it over.
All right. Thank you, Michael. My goodness, we're super excited to be here today. Now we're going to share our screen with you. Wonderful. There we go. Then we're going to get this. So give us one more minute and we're ready to go. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, okay,
Awesome.
ready to go. So, okay, super excited to be here, everybody. I'm Pouneh.
I'm Sara.
And we're here to talk about our story, our big journey to Microsoft Teams. As Michael said, we have quite the story and one of the fastest deployments at Microsoft ever. So we're super excited to be here and share it. I want to just kind of give you a little bit of a grounding on where we were and how we got there. So really important to just kind of understand our journey to Microsoft Teams. When Microsoft Teams GA'd back in March of 2017, we actually also deployed it, but we actually used it in what we call collaboration mode and allowed people to continue to use Skype for Business as well as Teams. So we didn't have all the features available to them, but they were certainly using the chat and the conversations that were happening in the Teams and the channels. And then our team kind of formed and said, okay, if we're going to move this journey, if we are going to truly change the way that we work, we need to identify some MVPs, which are minimal viable products for Microsoft Teams, and make sure that our product group partners land those so we can actually deliver this product and move away from Skype for Business. So it was really, really critical. Once we onboarded users, then we started running side by side. Then we partnered with our Microsoft Teams PG and we delivered the MVPs. Then we started really our implementation of the upgrade as well as our whole change management and our adoption strategy to say, how do we get there? So for us, it was absolutely key. We had 3 critical guidelines that we said, we have to nail this, right? Technical readiness, really, really important. Making sure that we transition our users once the product met our needs, right? Because we were taking Skype for Business away, we had to tell our users, hey, this product is even better, and we're going to land everything as well as more. And so we started testing the functionality at scale, which all our customers benefited from, as well as built out what we called a ring structure to roll out these features by rings to pilot them before they got to our customers. So this was really important for us. Secondly, adoption. We are in end user services engineering, and Sara is the adoption queen, and she led this all for our internal users. But for us, it was really a shift. It wasn't about, here's another product. It was really about, let's win the hearts and minds of our users. And you'll hear us say a lot about that because we wanted to make this valuable for them. At Microsoft, you would think, hey, everybody will just jump on this new product. And actually, that's not the case. It's the opposite. So we had to actually work really, really hard, just like most companies, to win the hearts and minds of our users and develop scenario-based training, adoption strategies, comprehensive data-driven listening systems, which Sara will share with you. And most importantly, also a globalized change management framework. One of the things our leaders said to us is, how are you going to do this? How are you going to make sure 200,000 users are aware of when the upgrades are happening, what's going on? So we had to make sure this was all available to them. And on top of that, sponsorship and personalization, right? We needed to make sure our leaders were on board. We needed to make sure they supported us. So we had to implement local adoption teams through our change management program. We had to create toolkits for our leaders so that our organizations could customize them and tailor them for their areas. So these 3 things were so critical for the success of our upgrade. And then once we did those, we had a strategy. So our story began with, we have 14,000 conference rooms. And one of the feedbacks that we had received through all our global satisfaction surveys and feedbacks from our employee was, that experience isn't too great. So what we thought is we have to nail this. In order to make this seamless and easy and a real great story, we need to make sure our rooms are upgraded with Teams as well as Skype. So they were all upgraded. And then we started this next phase to say, hey, now that we have this upgraded rooms, we're going to deploy the Teams Outlook add-in. And to many people's surprise, this didn't happen till like a year later after it was already GA, this feature. And a lot of our own internal employees were saying, why aren't we getting this feature? Why can't we use this Teams Outlook add-in? And we said, we needed to wait to make sure the conference room's available for you.
And that's a piece of
Yeah.
how we made this a little bit different than what we've done in the past, right? We said it's really important for those end users who've had maybe not so great of an experience with meeting joins and things like that,
Yep.
to really have a smooth experience, make this better for them, a better, more productive experience for them. So we forced the wait.
Yeah, absolutely. And so once we did that, we launched the Outlook add-in, and we did it by phases, and we had over 200,000 users within the Teams Outlook add-in. And another reason for that was we had to measure reliability, meeting reliability, and make sure performance wasn't degraded when we brought these 200,000 users. So we didn't force everyone. We created a scenario where you have Teams and you have Skype. So you have a choice to do Teams or Skype, but we're really highly encouraging you to create Teams meetings and give them opportunities. So Sarah will talk a little bit about like the cool campaigns we put together, the contests, things like that to get usage of meetings up before we started the migration. So our goal was, get that experience before people feel like, okay, now I have no choice. So that was really critical. Once we got that, then we started upgrading our users in waves to Teams only, which meant Skype no longer would be available for them to be able to use it to create meetings, for chats, for calls. It would truly be in the background just for joining existing meetings. So we really had to make that shift, but those two approaches with the conference rooms and the Outlook add-in were critical. Along with that, I talked a little bit about our MVP criteria, and to make sure before we started the upgrade, we had to make sure the minimal viable product for these features around accessibility, calling, meetings, and messaging was in parity and even better for our users before we made the switch. So that was really, really key for us. Now, once we did that, I wanted to just kind of walk through our upgrade goals. A lot of the discussion, things that I just mentioned around our strategy had to also have goals around it because, again, with our Microsoft users, we need to make sure they understand the value proposition, right? Like, why do I need to go back to Teams? We really wanted to drive home the fact that, one, Teams meets the needs of the modern workplace, right? We have more and more companies and organizations that want digital workspaces. They want them to feel open, inclusive, so they can share and connect. So that was really key. Second, simplifying the whole meeting and calling experience, right? We talk about Teams being the hub for teamwork. One place to go. I can call, I can meet, I can collaborate. I never have to leave my desktop because everything is right there and it makes it much easier. And lastly, the most important thing for us is really measuring quality and reliability. Now, our new modern infrastructure with Teams provides better audio, video that result in better quality of meetings. But we had to prove that to our users. And the way that we did that was by conference rooms, by giving them the Outlook add-in, giving them opportunities to choose, and showing them that this is truly better. So that was really key. And we measured this, which I'll talk to you guys about as far as part of our success criteria as we moved wave to wave. Any questions? We're good? Okay. With that, we had migration guiding principles. Our leaders said to me, Pouneh, if you're moving 200,000 users, how do we know? How do we know that we're ready? What are your guiding principles in ensuring this goes successful? And so I said, okay, well, let's establish these. We defined 6 guiding principles that we felt that it was important for us. Obviously, 1, telemetry to ensure service health, right? Making sure we have improved quality, monitoring this, and providing that to our leaders as well as our users so they know. 2, ensuring employees work with customers. There's no disruption, right? We wanted to make sure that we honor existing meetings. This was a key part of our strategy in the beginning of giving people opportunities to choose and then moving them off after they have chosen. So This was really important for us. 3, anchoring on productivity, right? Making sure MVP features were delivered, so there was no concerns, making sure the rooms were upgraded, and then making sure our migrations happened in groups so that there was no user disruption or downtime. And fourthly, we had manageability features for IT admins. Many of you may not know this, but we worked really hard with our product group to make sure a lot of these features that were deployed that our customers are benefiting from were enabled by flags and up to the tenant admin, and for you to be able to turn on and turn off. Before that, that wasn't available when we initially rolled out Teams.
Yeah.
And it caused us a lot of problems because we'd get new features. We'd be like, wait, we didn't ask for this feature. And so we had to make sure that they understood the impact, and through our ring structure of how we deployed it, it really helped drive that, no, we have to have manageability features for our IT admins so they can see this in the portal and they can control it at the tenant level. The 5th one, I can't stress this enough, right? Support globally and locally from ITM. So IT managers, getting the support teams, IT managers, your field folks in the know from day one. They are your eyes, your ears, and your first line of defense, making sure that they understand the change management approach. They're in alignment with the support plan, and we'll go through that a little bit, but have visibility to all these things that are happening throughout the project. And they became a part of our core team.
Absolutely.
So we had to make sure that was in place. And with all these guiding principles, the last thing was truly establishing user confidence, right? Being transparent and authentic. You know, we knew Teams wasn't perfect when we first launched, but we knew it was going to get better and better and better. And we wanted to prove that to our users.
Like, come along with us on the journey.
Come along.
We want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We're open to feedback. We won't take this, you know.
And then they started to see the changes come, right?
Yes. So. And they saw the changes, and we started publishing, you know, FAQs, known issues, really understanding what that user experience is. And once we did, that helped build that trust, right? So that was really, really key for us. I'll go through a couple of these quickly so we have enough time. And then we have also defined what we call our success criteria, right? Per wave. So when we did our upgrade, we did groups of organizations that collaborated together. So what we looked at is we looked at all our data and said, which groups work together and collaborate? How do we ensure that that collaboration experience isn't broken, right? So we did a lot of data analysis behind the scenes and said, okay, let's put these groups together and move them forward. And obviously, we had our business partners and ourselves work closely with the CBPs to validate that does this make sense for them.
Key. This was a key piece because in the past, we've done it by geography, right? We've done it in other ways. So this was a transition.
This was a very different approach from what we've ever done at Microsoft. And so, and it worked well because we didn't disrupt their, you know, experience, and people worked together.
A collaborative
thing
to do.
So with that, then we had to, every upgrade that we looked at these 7 measurements, right? We monitored support on a daily basis. We set up war rooms. We looked at our ticket counts. We looked at the severity of issues. And we really wanted to make sure that the number of support tickets, if they were coming in, were lower than obviously our user base. So that was key. Again,
a certain percentage that we said, you know, hit the big red rollback button if it hits here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one thing that a lot of people really loved, I think, about this opportunity is we gave them an option to temporary opt out as well as opt in. And what that means is, you know, when we were doing our organizational upgrades, we sent org leader announcements, we sent end user announcements. In the org leader announcements, as well as the end user announcements, we gave people a link and an opportunity to say, hey, if you're not ready, if you still want to stay on side-by-side, here's a link, temporary opt-out. And we gave them options of why you can opt out. And so it made people feel like they have a choice, and maybe they're not ready this week, but maybe in a couple weeks they'll be ready. So that was very important for us to show them that they had these options. And I'll walk through the forms quickly with you.
And the reverse was true.
And the reverse was true. This is the coolest thing. We had 6,000.
Maybe even more true,
Yeah,
right?
we had 6,000 opt-ins, right, within the first couple of weeks, and we had less than 1% throughout the whole upgrade. So we definitely had less people opt out, and more people that wanted to jump in and get Teams only to really experience it and be like, yeah, I want Teams. And we were super excited. It helped our case.
This is going the right direction.
Exactly. So that was really important. We look at the user feedback of people opting out and really try and understand, does this make sense, as well as people wanting to opt in. Call quality, I'm going to go over these kind of quickly. Call quality, healthy call index, very, very important. Again, like I said, we use these daily to monitor and measure poor call ratings, to monitor and measure healthy call index, to determine, are the calls people making, are they higher than what we had set? We had set specific numbers for Skype initially. We had set specific numbers for Teams, which were significantly higher, and we nailed them every time. And so as large groups of 15,000 to 30 to 40,000 were being upgraded, we were monitoring this to make sure nothing was degrading, as well as the meeting quality. So that goes into, we have healthy call quality as well as meeting quality and healthy meeting index. Also 2 key factors, right? I talked a little bit about in the beginning, making sure when we gave people the Teams Outlook added, they had the opportunity to make their meetings, but this was critical because once they switched over to Teams only, we were saying you no longer create Skype meetings. So we had to measure and really, what did we see? We had over I think now we have over 875,000 Teams meetings a month. It's like, oh, it's unbelievable. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. And user sentiment, which Sarah will go into, very, very, very important, because listening to our users, understanding their feedback, taking that feedback and helping us prioritize features that maybe we weren't aware of, or understanding scenarios, right, that we may not know of, to be able to continue this whole program and say, okay, we have to have our ears, we have to really have a pulse on this to make sure we're going through successfully. And so those were the criteria for every upgrade wave that we did as we moved, and we measured them daily. The next one is really about eligibility criteria. Now, I'm sure that there are a lot of organizations out there that are very complex, and Microsoft probably being one of the most complex environments I've ever worked in my 20 years. So I have to say that. So we had to define our eligible users, people that were ready to be upgraded to Teams only, and people that weren't. They were considered ineligible, right? So we wanted to make sure to make this transition very smoothly. So we set out eligibility criteria and said, okay, our users have to all be online, right? We had to make sure that they were not on Skype on-prem. They'd already been on Skype online. We had to make sure they weren't part of response group services. So we validated that. We had to make sure that there was no geographic calling restrictions. That was really important for us because we do have users in India, we have users in UAE. So we had to kind of separate them out. Also making sure that cloud calling was available to them. And then again, some regions, it's not available, some countries. This was very important for our India users. And then no temporary deferment requests, right? People that were opting out and temporary opting out, we had to, honor that to say, okay, we'll get back to you once we're done with our upgrade. And we just upgraded a whole bunch. After we finished, we went back to them and said, all these features are there. Right. Now we're ready to move you.
It's time.
It's time to go. You got to move with the train. So I talked a little bit about the support elements, right? Having a support model in place. I can't stress this enough. For us, this is what was the game changer. We had 4 key elements that defined successful upgrade experience. 1, making sure our support teams had brown bag sessions, right? We delivered them to the help desk. They were in the know. We had a global deployment team, and then we had channels by regions. Our support team, every upgrade that we did, knew when it was happening, what were the current issues, and how to escalate or mitigate quickly. That was really key. So we did brown bag sessions with them to make sure they were aligned. We shared communication emails that were sent, across the organization.
So they would know the timing. They'd be like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, and sometimes you think like, gosh, that's just so basic. Why wouldn't you do that? But a lot of times people miss that.
Check all those boxes.
Yeah. And so for us, it was like, no. You're part of this team.
Mm-hmm.
We have to expand like to 200,000 people. We need help. We need arms. We started with 5 people and our team expanded to 10. And then we had an extended team of 30.
Yeah.
I think because we needed the IT managers and our business partners and local adoption teams in place to help us get this going. Making sure support, training materials, known issues, FAQs, they were all accessible to them. We started building knowledge objects for the help desk so they knew what to do when any issues came and who to contact. We didn't put
the last thing you want is for there to be an issue and the whole other experience behind that to be bumpy, right?
Exactly.
You want a solution at the forefront.
Exactly. So that was really key. And then I already talked about this one, which is making sure that the help desk team was part of our channels and teams. They had a direct line to the implementation team. And if anything came up, they came with us. What is this? What are you doing? Questions. Woo. Okay.
Yeah, whenever you're ready. It didn't really come out. Oh, I had the wrong one. It was supposed to be a different card.
We got yellow flags.
We got yellow flags. Okay. We're ready for questions.
Okay, you ready? So
yes.
We've had quite a few. It's people are firing away here. So I'm gonna skip on back to near the beginning. So first question we actually got was, how far have we come around some of the gamification processes that were shown at Ignite?
Oh, well, Sarah's going to talk about
if you're able to talk about
that. That'll be in the second half of this. Actually, we saw it's taken a lot because of restrictions and compliance and data that we're really serious about PII here at Microsoft. So it's taken a lot to get everything aligned, but we saw V1 launched yesterday.
We just
super excited. So it's exciting.
And the next step for us is to actually build that as an LOB app. A lot of you heard that we had the digital badge and then the gamification, the leaderboards. We're actually now working to move those into the marketplace, make them available as LOB apps.
That's right.
So that our customers can actually leverage those and use them for their adoption.
That's how they show up in our tenant. It's you add it to the team, you click it, it's there.
Yeah.
So we had another question. This comes from Kyle, and he was asking if you could discuss some of the advantages or disadvantages that you've seen around locking down creation of teams within an organization.
Yeah. So
great question.
It's a fantastic question, and I'll be honest with you. So there's 2 things that we've done, and I'll let Sarah also talk about the strategy. Initially, when we launched Teams, we did no lockdowns, right? We felt that this had to grow because we wanted to see adoption and usage. This was really important. Very quickly, we saw there was sprawl, right? We saw, oh my gosh, people are creating teams everywhere. Yeah. How do we manage this without truly locking it down? What can we put in place to help people understand that if I create a team and 6 months down the line, I don't use it anymore, it just doesn't become like this massive thing. So what we did is implement policies to be able to renew the groups through the back end. So for us, every 120 days, we get notified if they want to renew the team. And it's also available in the team's channels to say, hey, I want to renew this team. Otherwise, what happens is it gets archived and then eventually deleted. And they'll get multiple questions. So we're not locking them down, but we are cleaning them up and giving people the opportunity to use our policies to be able to do that.
That's right. And I'd say the other piece of this and our experience really was around education. When do I use a one-to-many or group chat instead of spinning up a brand new team, because it does all of these things that I need? The more that we educated people, the more that people moved on to Teams only and realized these things had that slight learning curve, the less we saw sprawl, the better people just figured it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another one from Johan, and he's asking, he said when he's implementing that he feels a need to explain to the users as they're adopting how it uses SharePoint, groups, file sync, and all this stuff. And he said, but I often lose people at hello when going
Betty
there.
loses them.
He said, should I just focus on Teams?
They just, for the most part, in my experience, and the thousands of people we've trained now, most folks just want to know, how does this help me do my job better?
Yeah.
If it saves on a SharePoint, that's fantastic. Whatever. What do I do with, to lock things down, or how do I set up a team to get my team to adopt it? Things like that. So it's really the what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Even though I agree with Johan that the whole back end and all of the architecture and the way it connects with groups, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But not to most people in training.
Yeah, and I hope this is Johan from Norway, because he is one of our biggest
Yay!
champions. So, woo, Johan!
There we go.
And if it's not, we still love you.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully. No, but that's one of the stories that we talk about, what to use when, and we've learned very quickly, as Sarah said, not to confuse them with that. Make it easy. You create a group chat. It goes into OneDrive, your files. If you're creating across the group in your teams, it's shared in SharePoint, and the Office 365 groups are created. So simplify as quickly as possible.
I agree, totally. So last one for this round, and then we'll answer some more later. But we have Jeff from Newark, Delaware. And Jeff asks, we are in islands mode.
Yeah.
Can you compare and contrast?
Sure. So islands mode is what, what we also refer to as side by side. I should say the formal term is islands mode. We kind of feel like, oh my gosh.
And explain for the audience what the islands mode means.
Yes. What it means is that you have Teams as well as Skype for Business. So you have two options, right? I can use Skype for Business as well as Teams for anything, right? There's some interoperability there, but I'm giving my users the choice. And we had this mode for many months. I mean, we started with that when we launched Teams. So it was really important for us to get that user adoption first and then move off. Once you go into Teams only, what happens is you no longer have the ability to make calls, make chats, proactively, or create meetings in Skype for Business. You're using Teams as your primary client, and it's set to your default chat and calling. So that's the big difference with having islands mode versus Teams only.
And I'll say to that, from an adoption standpoint, it's one thing when you have them both, right? It's hard to convince somebody. You got to have a really great convincing argument to get them to move over. But we found, and I'll go through that later, that we really did. This really was a better experience, a better product. And when we showed people how they could do all of those things in one place, how they could have better video and audio quality, how they could collaborate in one spot, they began naturally picking Teams over Skype, which was, the goal.
Yeah, every person that wanted to collaborate was like, well, let's do it on Teams. Let's start doing it on Teams. So Champions helped a lot, which Sarah will talk to you about.
All right, so that's it for questions for now. Keep them coming. I see I already have 10 new ones that I have to go and review. And we have a bunch more that we didn't get to, but thank you, ladies, and continue on.
All right.
Okay. So now what we want to do is just kind of walk through our team's opt-in forums. This is what I talked a little bit about having as our success criteria. We gave people a form and had links in there, and we created short URLs to say, hey, I want Teams, give me Teams. And this is where you go to get your Teams updates. Am I not sharing my screen? Yeah. I just want to make sure. Okay, so that was our opt-out, opt-in form. And what happened is when people would go to this, click the link, within 15 minutes, we had an automated script that would run, change their policies, and they would be enabled as Teams only. Similarly, we gave people the opportunity to what we call temporary defer. So we gave them short URLs that said, defer my Teams upgrade. Anybody that wanted to say, hey, how do I get my upgrade deferred? We just send them to this link. And surprisingly, a lot of people that said, oh, they were a little panicked when we were doing our upgrades and they wanted to defer, within a couple weeks came back to us and said, no, I'm ready to upgrade now. Can you upgrade me now? And so it was nice. They had the option. We said, okay, now go to this link. 15 minutes later, they had the Teams only experience. So giving those choices to people, we found worked at Microsoft instead of, just kind of driving the hammer
Yeah,
down.
exactly.
We've tried a lot of approaches for products here. So this was one that actually worked. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the communication plan, and Sara will truly go into really all the internal adoption, the listening, and the marketing strategy, because she was phenomenal at it. So I will just kind of talk to you about, these 4 pillars that we put in place, because, despite all the clear benefits of using Microsoft Teams, changing user habits was difficult, right? Creating new excitement around a new tool at Microsoft was difficult. I never realized it. I was new to Microsoft, 2 years ago. Now I'm no longer new. But when I started, I was like, why wouldn't they just use it? Why do we have to do so much marketing and adoption? But it really was to create buzz, to get the value proposition out so that people could really be set up for success. And I can't emphasize that enough. You really this is a new way of working. This is a new behavior. So it's important to really listen to your users and put plans together so that they're excited and they want to learn and become your champions, which Sara will talk about. And in order to do that, we created these 4 pillars. And again, making sure there was an awareness program, right? Landing the message. How do you get message out to 200,000 people across the globe? And make sure they understand it's coming. We still had people in the middle of the upgrade saying, I didn't know I was being upgraded. And we thought, wait, were you on vacation? What planet are you on? But it's true. It's hard when people have so many things happening. You will miss these communications. So making sure that, there was a training sessions, which Sara will talk to you about, worldwide Art of Teamwork training sessions, tailored content, champions program, which you'll go into, making sure we had physical and digital signs. And you know what? We didn't have a huge budget. I just want to get that clear, because a lot of people ask us, like, or a huge team, like, you must have had all the available resources. And we did it. We really worked hard together to come up with effective strategies to get as much messaging and support out through our champions and our business partners and our local adoption teams, and really getting people engaged, which takes us to the next pillar, which was all around engagement, right? Getting people the opportunity to have white glove services. We created a process where people could go to after the training or before and request services, like how do they become more effective? And can you come talk to my, organization? Can you land in all hands? Sara would get so many requests. And so we had to actually disperse this amongst the team, because there was so much excitement and people wanting to learn. This was really key.
Operationalize it. And you don't want to turn anybody away who wants to learn.
Exactly.
Especially when they were like, okay, come help my team figure this out. It's like, okay, we'll work it out. So
that was really, really important for us. Another key thing that we did during this process was implement day 1 productivity for our new employees during onboarding, as well as having white glove services. We implemented at NEO, we created a team that had all the resources available. So day 1, when our new employees came, they would know how to use Teams. They would get Teams installed on their mobile. They'd be shown how to use. So they were productive. And when they started coming, day 2, to Microsoft, they were already engaged. So that helped us. And now we're really focusing on getting that engagement even earlier during the recruiting process.
Using Teams for all of those
communications. For all communications of recruiting, then onboarding.
Talk about seamless onboarding to Teams.
You're already using it. You're not even here. So 3 stages. So on top of that, we get more excitement. So that was really important. And so we'll talk about showcase successes. I can't stress this enough. Like, we look at our employees and our champions and say, gosh, we're so proud of you. We're so excited that you can actually tell our stories and show the value and the productivity that you're gaining. So highlight those, whatever mechanism you have, give people the opportunity to talk about those so they can relate to people and get others in the community excited. Measurement, you're going to love this. It's all about metrics. Sara's going to go deep into this, but making sure we have listening systems in place, making sure we can review the data and understand Is adoption and training, is everything working together as we're doing the upgrades? Are we seeing the trends move, which you'll love in the next couple of slides? And then management, improve the product from employee feedback, right? Taking those listening sentiments, taking it, going back to the user and doing more focus groups, understanding what their true scenarios and key issues are, and then talking to the product groups and saying, I need this prioritized. We have, let's say, 1,000 users here that are saying, we need this feature. It's disruptive if we don't have this. Taking that feedback, getting heard, and making sure, you're understanding so that we can help prioritize some of those. Understanding the roadmaps, and then being able to be very agile. I can't stress this enough. To improve the experience, you have to be agile. We would do pre-surveys, post-surveys, and take that information and quickly switch our messaging strategies, switch our tactics. Like if we heard through a group of people, I can't find information in Teams. Yep. The next campaign was reprioritized and said, okay, we need to show people how to search. We need to show people how to find information because this is what we're hearing from the communities and the users. So having the agility to do that. So I'm going to now turn it over to Sara, who is the queen bee of adoption and champs, and she's going to walk you through all the really cool things around that.
We'll take a quick pause maybe before we jump in.
Yeah.
Questions?
Are you taking questions? Oh, good, because we've got a lot.
All right.
I'm trying to keep up here, so let's see. Scroll. All right, and first of all, we do have some questions. Are the slides going to be available?
Yeah, we'll give these to you after this.
Okay, and then I'll attach them to the post. So that we'll get that out of the way because I've gotten that multiple times. So the first that they asked, this one's from Stephen. This is a great question. Stephen asks, for your change ambassadors or champions, what requirements did you define for them as far as time commitment? And were you able to lower the estimated time commitment from 2 hours to less by providing better guidance assets? And if so, what was the additional resource cost to IT to make that change happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent question.
It's a great question. And I have slides that walk us through the champions, the how, the why, the how you create it, what you need to look at. And I will say in a nutshell to answer that question before I get to the deep details, it was completely optional. If you want to opt into our champions program and spend 1 hour a month, you are welcome to be there. If you want to do it and you spend more time, that's great. And then this is the gamification piece we were talking about earlier that we just launched yesterday. That is to incentivize people to engage more, but still we're very much aware that that's not their day job. And so whatever time they have and are willing to give, we do not mandate anything for the champions. Probably part of the reason it's been successful.
Exactly. A lot of it was because they wanted to join. I mean,
exactly.
You said you need to do the 2 hours, and then as people started being part of the community, and we have the most active team, in the teamwork channels around the communities, joining in feedback and helping each other. I think people just automatically saw the value and wanted to continue and pulling more and helping more users.
I'll just field you quick 3 more. One of them is very quick. And it's kind of fun. This is the question. He said, this is from Craig. Craig says, a silly question, but can they blur the background so we can see how the feature works with more than one person on the cam?
Yay!
I love it.
For sure. Blur my background.
I've never tried it with multiples.
I can't wait to show you.
Oh!
In and out.
In and out. There you go. It's like you're in and out of a fog there. So, Craig, there's your answer. That was a quick one.
Very quick. And pretty soon you'll be able to see the cool screen changes. Next time you'll see us have a beach in Hawaii behind the scenes.
I'm waiting for that so I can hold up a Corona with a lime and do a beach cast.
I like that.
Yeah, I know they're continuing to iterate on making that crisp and clear. So yeah.
So we did have a question that actually spawned a whole thread, and it's a good one, and it's one I hear a lot. this comes from Sarah. It's kind of a statement, but also it's a discussion. I guess it's really for commentary. And it says, this is very interesting, but you're discussing adoption at a tech company, which I hear all the time when I'm talking to folks, where there is an expectation of technical competence. How might this look different for a company?
No.
I know. Well, hold on. How might this look different for a company who is not tech-centered? We run into a wide variety of ability and resistance to technology, which makes getting an entire team on board difficult. If one team member shows resistance, are there ways of working because it derails the whole experience for the rest of the team?
Oh my gosh, I cannot agree with you more. First of all, I mean, excellent question, right? And excellent points. There's a couple things. I mean, if I want to just tell you guys, I came from a media and entertainment company, right? And I knew these Microsoft products in and out, right? I felt like I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to Microsoft. And when I came here, I was in, and it's not negative, I was in complete shock that the way that I use Microsoft products and the way that I learned how to use them to automate was not the same way that people used them here. And we actually had a lot more challenges here. You know, we have our technical folks in the engineering groups, and there's no expectation that our finance, our HR, our other divisions in this organizations are super techies, right? In fact, it's truly the opposite, because sometimes people get burnt out, and that's what we really see is when you work in a tech company and you're expected to, like, not even expected, but you're getting constantly pinged about, here's a new product, dog food this, pilot this, do this, be a part of our elite program. It becomes overwhelming, and it was like when I came in here, I was like, why aren't people excited about this? Why aren't people using Teams? It should be easily. It's so easy, you know. And I quickly learned that, oh my goodness, they're just inundated with information that people are just kind of standing back. And they're like, I want to wait to see what's going on. I'm not going to learn.
People realize every time you, first of all those different groups have different products they already work with. Like finance has their own products, procurement has their own products.
Exactly.
And anytime you bring in something new, especially an entirely new way of working, people are afraid that it's going to reduce their productivity. I know how to do my job. I know how to do it in a timely way.
Don't give me another product.
Don't give me another product, another problem, something else to learn. Everything's going along just fine. So we too, just so you know, you are not alone. We too met that kind of resistance. And, you know, we had different ways of addressing that challenge, which really are all parts of the readiness program, from communication to persona-based training to different ways of learning, either watching short, quick videos on just how to do this one scenario-based thing, or going to a full webinar, or having somebody come to me and help me learn. So it's a multi-pronged approach to convince people and kind of unseat them from their old ways. And
believe me, it was
not
show
easy
them that
for us. That it's useful to them. That's the key message.
And that's why we want to share our story, is because I think the assumption is that, you know, everybody in Microsoft jumps on and it's easy to adopt products, and it's not the case. We had to work hard. We had to be clever. We had to come up with creative, engaging ways to get our users to adopt Teams. It was not easy for us.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. Believe me. You see all the gray hairs? This happened over 2 years.
So true.
So one last one. I'm actually going to kind of lump two of them together. This comes from an anonymous, and then Kim from Delaware. And there was a question around how SharePoint and Teams are linked, but then kind of really layers into the next question, was around how do you handle shared document storage after a team is disbanded, and what happens, because if you delete the team, you lose the SharePoint, right? You lose those documents. So, you know, how are they related, and how do you handle kind of that tear down and dealing with that?
Sure. Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of approaches that we can do. You know, one of the things that Sarah said is that, you know, in order to avoid sprawl, you know, we really communicate and educate users on when to create a team. Once they created the team, and let's say the project or initiative is complete, what we do encourage people is to archive. You do have the ability to archive your content and archive your teams. The beauty of having Teams as your front end and SharePoint as your back end is that all the amazing document management, e-discovery, archiving, encryption, everything happens on the back end in SharePoint. So if you enable the features and actually archive your team, the content remains stored on a SharePoint site. What we say is inactivate the team, don't delete it. So one more, okay.
I had lied. There was one more that I know is something on a lot of folks' minds, and I hear all the time, and then we'll cut off for now. This comes from Jerry, and Jerry asks, can you answer a simple question? What
Like
value does what value does Teams bring when we're already using Skype for Business and SharePoint Online for many years? And what will both Skype for Business and Teams, when will they have feature parity? Thanks, folks. It's fun to hear the webcast.
Awesome, Jerry. Yes. So first answer to the last question is that they have feature parity and beyond. It's a more than just chat, calling, and meetings. There's a whole way to use everything in conjunction with all the collaboration tools, all the access to my documents, etc. That are these. It's the critical enabler to making me more productive. And through measurement, we've seen this transition. We've seen, and I'll show you in some slides, reduction in email, which we know can get forked and change and add people over time, where we can have those quick conversations now and pull people right in. And I think the number one thing I would point out in comparison to the two is that Skype for Business does not have persistence in its chat.
Yes.
So if you and I have a Skype for Business chat and then we move on and it's 3 weeks down the road and we need to pull in Michael, we got to start it all over again instead of just going back, hitting an at mention or adding him to the chat, at mentioning him, and we're off and running really quickly. So there are a lot of really scenario-based things like that. Anything you'd add?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it there. I mean, when we talk about the value prop of, moving away from Skype for Business to Teams, one, it's the ability to connect quickly. It's the ability to collaborate quickly, have those awesome SharePoint features at the back end, which Skype for Business did not have, right? I can co-author, I can share, I can, like documents, I can comment documents. There's so much rich content and co-authoring features that are available that creates that collaboration experience within Teams. That was never
in context.
And it's in
our
context.
Conversation is in context to the work we're doing. It's all together.
And so that's where we look at, being able to connect, collaborate, and communicate effectively and seamlessly, where we see that as truly the value of Teams becoming the hub for teamwork versus Skype is great for these certain things, but you would never go back to Skype to use it as a knowledge share. You could never go back and pull that information that you had discussed. You can't, send people to Skype to find information and use it for onboarding. Right. So it truly is a different mindset. It's a shift in the way you're working, and it's a shift in the way that you're communicating and sharing.
This is a really good segue because maybe the first and most fundamental piece of what we share in all of our training whenever we talk about moving to Teams and away from Skype, it's that it's not a new tool. It is truly an entirely new way of working. So it's not like, you just came here to learn where the buttons are or how to download this or that. You came here to understand how you and your team can operate in a completely new way. And, some shared some of those things. I'll kind of maybe switch you.
We'll switch back and forth.
Switch back and forth. All right, we're still there. So the slide that we're looking at is communications and marketing. And, everybody's probably heard this. People have to hear seven times? Something about seven times before they get it. And especially when you're doing passive things like, we do digital marketing in all of our buildings, posters, cards on the tabletops in the cafes, proactive communications, website updates, intranet updates. We're there onboarding the new employee onboarding.
We're truly trying, I think, to stay away more from the email communication, using that as a formal, but really do subliminal, messages around. So as I'm walking through hallways, as I'm going to the cafe, as I'm going to my car, like I see signs, I see information and I'm taking it in whether I like it or not,
Right,
but it's happening around me.
And even the Champions Digital Badge was its own form of promotion about this whole thing, you know, so doing digital things. So anyway, these are some of the channels and ways that we communicated to people. Another thing is in that formal communication, like you said, we did have an entire work back schedule. So when we were onboarding these groups to the upgrade, you know, we gave the leader a templatized email that they could take and you make their own and put as part of their communications to their organizations. And then on the heels of that, we came with a CSEO communication that said, here's your upgrade. Please take this quick survey. You can opt out here. You know, it had all of the information that they needed in that formal communication. And it was a one-to, you know, we sent it to you to let you know what your experience was going to be. So I think it's good to have those multiple levels of proactively reaching out to people. And I want to take a look at this. This is just absolutely key to the success of this change. The little tiny picture below is kind of a layout of how we set up our change management plan. And getting that org buy-in, that org alignment, and getting the right roles engaged was absolutely critical to making the change and all of change management efforts successful.
Yes.
So speaking of communicating too. So first we went out to the org leaders. Our small V team had an individual assigned from CSEO to each of the EVPs at Microsoft to coordinate with them and their chief of staff and their leaders on how their orgs would be communicated to, would be trained, would be readied for this transition.
Exactly.
Timing, how to use things, how to ask questions, where to go for help, all of that good stuff. So we had the org leader. Typically, their chief of staff would organize a V team under them to work with all of these things. They pulled in the comms lead because they would do their own internal communications on top of our kind of global ones too. Right. The exec admin, you know, just all in all, the exec admin is the number one. There's a reason that was the first persona-based training we created, because the exec admins make everything run. And if you can get them comfortable with Teams and using it, then everybody else moves too. And then typically there was an adoption lead, somebody who headed up the V team and gathered the champions together and spread the word about training, things like that.
Yeah, and this was really important, as Sarah said, because what we did is before each phase, we met with all these groups. We really had like a kickoff and said, here's where we're at. This is the upgrade. Here's your experience. Here's your toolkit. These are the comms you're going to send. You can customize them the way you want it. But this is what your user experience was. We gave them opportunities to ask us questions, to understand, let them know that there's support in place. Let them know, you know, a white glove support, you know, front desk support. Like, so we really were clear when we met with these groups of when it was happening and what to expect.
That's right. And time and again, what we saw, I love that you brought that up, that when we turned over that toolkit that we had developed for global use, they would take that toolkit, localize it, and like do it at a local level. What we were doing at the global level, between champions and training and onboarding and all of that good stuff.
Exactly.
Great. Communications too. Okay, so diving into what that toolkit was, right? what did we give them? First, I would just say that there are kind of three key areas for readiness and adoption. We had to get the message out about getting Teams, and that literally means not just understanding what it is or how to work in Teams, but literally downloading the client to your desktop. Because we found out, we quickly found out that a lot of people in those early, I like to call them the Wild West days, the early Wild West days when we had just turned it on after GA and we let it, you know, people do whatever they wanted with it. Some people got frustrated and they uninstalled it. And we found out that people were using the web app when we really wanted them to have the rich experience of the client. And then we
absolutely. And so through our telemetry, we found out that, oh gosh, we weren't seeing the numbers that we were seeing as we were upgrading people. And we thought, what's happening? And then all of a sudden we did some new metrics and we realized, oh Oh no, people have taken this off.
Yeah.
So we had to quickly get together with the groups and actually do an SCCM and pull a package together and start pushing it out to people and just getting it on people's desktop that we didn't see usage and adoption and see any kind of metrics. So then we were able to quickly, move the needle once we did that.
That's right.
That was the lessons learned.
Yeah, that is a big lesson learned.
Yeah,
Take that one away.
Make sure your users have it.
And then it's the client, the desktop client. So then get trained. And I have a whole piece on that, all the ways that we provided training and onboarding and help.
Cool.
And then get help and the different ways that we, meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you must go here for this, you must go here. We really developed multiple things. Everything that we provided lived in one space. Yeah. So just want to make that clear. We've kept this one place for 2 years, and we just add to it. It's not as pretty as we want it to be, but we are not going to make it pretty. Everybody knows where to go. We're keeping it where it belongs.
Exactly.
But people know that they can go to this one place, this quick URL, and we have many short URLs that point to different things here to make it easy for people to find. That's a good lesson learned. The art of teamwork. So I'm going to take some time here for a minute. This was really cool. What we decided to do was create this really branded program that delivered first level 100 basic training to teams. Even though it had been out for almost a year, there were many changes that had happened in the tool, many new things, new features, but also a lot of things that people just didn't realize from the beginning that you could do with Teams. Yeah. So that level 100 is really about how do I become productive in Teams? How do I set up my experience in Teams so that it's not too noisy and I'm not missing anything,
right?
It's the transition from Skype and the way things show up are different. And, how do I collaborate? What are some of those great first practices? Then we followed that up quickly with level 200, which instead of it being a pivot on I as a user, how do I engage with Teams? It was I as a team creator and owner. How do I build a team to last? How do I build a team that people know how to use? Yeah. How do I move my work group into Teams and all those processes over? So it's really targeted training about that. And then, as I've mentioned previously, we have launched persona-based training, which has been critical. The first persona-based training is for executive administrators. Again, you can get them on board, you get the leaders on board. If you get the leaders on board, you've sandwiched everyone. You're ready to go.
Literally, I can't stress this either, because Sarah and I, when we were talking about the whole training programs, when we started looking and talking to the users, first thing we thought is, okay, we got to get everyone together, all the EAs that are exec support. We need for them to understand how to create meetings, how to create calendars, what to do, how to use it, all the little notifications, all the little security items, things that would help them look really good in front of their leaders and their supervisors. So we sat with them in a room. I can't tell you, for like a week, we pulled in, Satya's SLT leaders, we pulled in all the other SLT exec admins, and we kept saying, okay, let's have this 2 to 3 hour session. Yeah. Let's do a brown bag. What are your concerns? Yep. How do we address them? And we did surveys. We did surveys, and we actually just sat there and walked them through all our concerns, so that by the end of the week, we had people that really liked the product from when they didn't even know how to use it, and they were so scared to use the product initially because they didn't want to look bad in front of their execs. And we created these really impactful evangelists. They had such broad reach. It was awesome. Yeah, it was phenomenal. Yeah. And then phase 2, which is just new now, is the leader onboarding. And I don't know, should I reveal? You should. Oh, you should. Okay, you guys are hearing it first here. So there's the leader persona-based onboarding, but on top of that, for our own leadership, I created a 20-day Teams challenge, and it's literally a task to do in Teams with their team every day for 20 days with a pointed reward system and bragging rights and such, of course. So it's different fun tasks to do every day. Exactly, and this is one of those key things. Just because we finished the upgrade, and we see adoption, we still have a lot of work to do, right? So, it's taking it to that next level. It's not like our work is over. You finish moving everyone, everyone's going to use it. No.
Or even know how to use it most efficiently,
or use
right?
it most efficiently. Exactly. So how do you still engage? How do you create excitement? What kind of things can you do?
And how do you do it in 5 minutes or less for an executive?
For an executive that has no time and does not want to deal with this. So we're excited.
Right, fingers crossed.
You're going to see more about that. We're thinking it's going to be another packaged up solution for you guys.
That's our plan. I'll just point out really quickly here, you can see in the numbers, let me explain them a little bit so you know how to read them. There are 3 columns. The furthest left column in both of these for September and March are the people inside Microsoft that did not attend an Art of Teamwork training and also did not have someone that works for their same manager that attended an Art of Teamwork training. And those are their, adoption and chat meeting usage metrics. Now, what we see is if somebody did attend the Art of Teamwork training, there was an exponential increase in their utilization of Teams, especially around what we call the parity functions of chat, meetings, calling. I don't have on here, but those core functions for when we remove Skype, did they know how to do it in Teams so that it wouldn't disrupt their work? And we saw that uptake really go up when somebody attended the Art of Teamwork training. The super exciting thing is the third column, and that is the other people that report to the same direct manager as the person who attended training, but did not themselves attend training. Their adoption also went up. So if somebody they worked with attended training, that person brought that information back and was pulling their teammates in. So can't stress Art of Teamwork training or any kind of training enough because it is a multiplier. Our averages were every one person we trained, 6 other people were positively impacted. So, when you have a tiny team, that kind of reach is amazing.
Absolutely.
Oh, this is critical.
Yeah.
This is a really good critical gotcha a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
No. I mean, I think one of the things I'll tell you is another lessons learned that we had talked about. One is around accessibility. We try to be very inclusive at Microsoft, and while our products are accessible, there are things we didn't know, and we learned quickly through the training and through the communications that went out that we had a group of users in, or what we call Microsoft visually impaired users that were not happy with us, right? And they immediately, when they started hearing that we're moving only to Teams, they just were like very, very vocal. And so which was fantastic for us because we didn't know about some of the issues that they were experiencing, initially with screen readers. And this was truly the first time that Microsoft actually implemented accessibility training. We actually met with the users. We understood and sat there and went, okay, this must be frustrating. We have all this guidance around how we work and how we change behavior, but we haven't customized this. We haven't provided this for our users with accessibility needs. So how do we shift immediately? So we started engaging with them. We started doing demos with them. We started building training and partnering with them to say, okay, does this training fit your needs? And start building modules together so that they too felt inclusive, and we're a part of it. And
such good learnings for us.
It was such good learnings for us. And quickly, all the noise we were hearing all of a sudden went down. Right.
It's one of the examples of having all of those surveys and channels and feedback channels and listening systems in place. It's a core example of how important that is and that you're continuously doing that listening.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to, my biggest proud moment was when our LT said to me, one of the SLTs said, Pouneh, are these upgrades actually happening?
Are you faking this?
Are you faking this? I'm not hearing any noise. I'm not getting escalations. Are you sure? And I was like, yes. And I looked at him and I said, well, how did your upgrade go? And he smiled at me. He said, great. And I said, well, there you go. And behind the scenes, what he didn't know was these champions, this training, this adoption, this communication, the business partners, all of the work that we had done in planning and getting this ready was because of everybody helping us get that noise quickly, resolve it. It wasn't that there wasn't any noise. Every day we kept saying, hey, we got to move another boulder out of the road. This is our goal. This is our target. Every day we'd have pep talks. okay, what's the next boulder today? And we would continue, but having that community to help us to minimize noise and get things done was key for the success of this project. And accessibility was a big a lot of noise for us. And immediately when we realized that, we started nailing it and went to the groups and engaging with them, and they felt a part of the process, which is really important for us.
Absolutely. I am going to go on to at least one more, and then we'll check for questions. Just very quickly, as I said, different people like to learn in different ways. Not everybody wants to attend an in-person training or has time for an hour webinar or even an hour-long video. So we made 5-minute or less scenario-based videos. All of these things you see here, you know, if I was about to begin Teams, what are the first 5 things I need to do? How do I sit down and set it up so that I can become productive within 5 minutes? How do I move my work group to Teams? Or how do I have a meeting? What does that look like? What does Teams only mode mean? You know, stuff like that. So we posted and evangelized and communicated about all of these and have had many thousands of views. Yeah. So we believe those to have been successful too. Before I move on to KPIs and measurements, I thought I'd pause really quick for questions.
Yeah. Yes, and we have a slew of questions. So one of them was repeated multiple times when you guys talked about the 20-day challenge. People got all excited. They're like, I want to see it. How do I get my hands on that?
Oh, yes, man. Yes. So yeah. We'll unveil, once we unveil to the LT.
We will. They're going to, our LT is going to be our pilot group. And if I still have my job, I'm going to package it up and I'm going to send it out for everybody.
Yes.
There we go.
Just give us a couple weeks because we're planning to launch and Sarah's doing a phenomenal job. It's going to be really cool. I mean, we will come back and share it with you guys for sure.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think you'll love it. It's so engaging. It's just really fun.
I got hit with like 6 in a row asking that. How do I get it? How do I get it? All right.
Sure, we promise. Yeah.
The next one is from Michelle, and Michelle asks, much of our workforce use thin clients, non-persistent, which seems to diminish their experience. Is there a resource specific to best practices for?
Oops. We lost Michael there a little bit.
We lost Michael a little bit.
Did I drop?
You did for a second.
That's okay.
My back. All right. Yeah.
Got it.
My lovely fiber. Can you hear me okay now?
It happens. You're good.
All right. So they were asking, is there a resource specific around best practices for using MS Teams in a thin client environment?
That would be something out of the product group.
Yeah, I think certainly we can follow up on that. That's an excellent question to get best practices.
That's a good point.
I know we're always coming up with ideas of using it and how to optimize performance and how to optimize it in different ways. But we can certainly take that question and do a follow-up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. The next one, it's an interesting one, says, we have a large SharePoint 2013 intranet with a mix of public sites viewable by the entire company and locked down private sites. They asked, does this translate to a mix of SharePoint modern sites for the public info and MS Teams for collaboration? And how does MS Teams intersect with SharePoint-based intranet?
Okay. So how does MS Teams intersect with SharePoint Internet? Well, what happens is you have 2 options. When you create a team, you have the ability to use modern sites to be able to create teams behind the scenes. Or, and the way that intersects is the whole back end becomes SharePoint, right? That becomes your document repository for your team.
The team comes up on the front end. So they were asking about, I think, those large, like, company-wide sites versus the, team sites. So, for example, all of that one place where everything lives that I showed you at the very beginning, that is our intranet. That is one of our large company-wide sites, and that will remain on SharePoint. However, there are many of the modern sites that I had used before, that when I went into Teams and I chose to create a team, I was able to put that Teams front end on that site and even choose what was brought into the
Yes.
team to show through on the team's experience. So yeah, it depends on what your strategy is, but we do exactly that. We have big, broad, open SharePoints, intranets, and we have those more private sites that we just put that Teams front end on. Hopefully that answers.
Yeah.
And one last one for right now. Would you consider this a scary situation? Office 365 Teams project is underway. Chief Marketing Officer is in inception stage. No one is hired yet. First pilots will be in 3 months and Teams rolled out to 55,000 users by end of the year. So what are your thoughts?
Exciting! We look at this as an opportunity.
I just have to say, I had a vision of somebody on the roller coaster throwing their arms up and just right along.
No,
I can understand why they.
Yeah. I mean, it is scary, right? And any type of change, I think, is scary for anyone, right? Especially moving to a new platform and having to understand how it works and changes and how you use it day to day. I can't stress enough of the importance of really trying to put plans together. I mean, even if you don't have a chief marketing officer or product officer in place, you can get groups of people and champions and people that are helping implement or deploy this and get them excited about it, but leverage some of these best practices that we have provided to you. We have digital toolkits available on Success with Teams. We make all our content available for you, but leverage kind of some of the lessons and learnings that we have. Make sure you're planning, right? You may not need to have a leader. We've had leaders move out of our organization in mid-flight, right? And we had to just continue and go and just do what's right because we knew that the path was, we knew what the goal was and we had to get there. So it's really about planning. And by the end of the year, you have 6 months. I think you can put some plans together to really start with pilots and then expand upon that. That's what I can tell you. Just be assured. And Microsoft's here to help you, right? We have Fast Track, we have users here, we have huge communities that we can help you with your implementation.
And understanding how Teams fits in the Office 365 frame, just understanding that whole kind of ecosystem and how everything works together. Yeah. That will help you in your planning, and then you'll be okay. You're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. I promise.
Okay, great. Continuing on, KPIs and measurements. So I'm going to talk you through this slide a little bit. As we've stated, we were asked, okay, great. How are we going to know when the 200,000 users in Microsoft are ready for us to rip or replace Skype for Business? How are we going to know they're ready to use, move fully to Teams for all of their processes? Yeah. And we said, well, we better figure out if they know how to do certain functions, which we called dubbed parity functions of chat, meetings, and calling, because those were the core things to look at if we were taking away Skype. However, what the reporting was showing these org leaders was any activity in Teams. So if somebody opened up a message in Teams or liked something or wrote something, that was counting as an action. There are over 800 panel actions in Teams. And so we said that we did this movement org by org by org. I showed you that chart of who we got engaged. Yeah. And we had to have a way to talk to them about timing and evangelizing the use of Teams with their orgs, because what they were seeing were these reports, hey, our org is using Teams, we're fine, we're good. But it was a little bit of a different story. So what we did was we created reporting that showed total employees in each of these orgs that we were transitioning together. Mm-hmm. The number of employees you can see today that were targeted to go Teams only, and Pouneh went through the list of some of the reasons why some of our users aren't eligible for Teams only. So that top green line is really who is eligible for Teams only upgrade. We kept track as we upgraded who was already upgraded or opted in with one of our forms. And then underneath that, there were 3 things. The employees that had used Teams in 6 months, the ones who had used it in the last 30 days, and then the most important one at the bottom is the employees that used one of those Skype parity functions inside Teams in the last 30 days. So you can imagine the top green line and the bottom purple line better match, or those people aren't going to be able to, or haven't had experience using those functions in Teams. And this is a later snapshot, but in the early days when we first made this, you know, the one line was their top green line was there, and then the bottom purple line was either halfway or less. So I called it the cliff. That everybody was going to fall off if we didn't get them trained up. So it was one way to look at this and talk about it. And then the blue line on the far right, along with the purple line, that's the, you know, the Skype usage against the Teams usage, because as we said, we were in islands mode and people had a choice to use whatever they wanted to for those functions for quite some time. So we actually saw that pivot shift where they were using Teams more frequently than Skype when they still had the choice. So felt like that was
huge.
Big win.
Yeah.
And then a drop down. The other piece that I really needed to see was, are we being effective in our readiness efforts, or do we need to take our limited resources and go in a different direction?
Yeah.
And I spoke about this a little bit on that Art of Teamwork training slide, and this is a deeper view into that. People who did not have any kind of training or work with somebody who did. Okay, just checking. No, I'm showing you the right slide. And then the middle slide is the people who took the training, and then the far right is the people who worked with those who took the training. And on this view, you can see that the emails sent are also going down, and going down a little bit faster in those who take training and those that they work with. So, man, training is absolutely key, and you can really impact a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Then, the Champions Program. This has been so much fun. And it sounds like some folks have heard this story, but from when we were back at Ignite.
Yeah, we'll be back there this year. We're going to have new exciting stuff this year.
That's right. So the Teamwork Champions Program was something we decided to pilot. Like we've said, our team was small, and we're a global company, over 200,000 users, and we said, how are we going, we know the training works, we can see it in the metrics.
Exactly.
How do we get this out there? And, you know, of course, we can do webinars and we can record it and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But there's nothing quite like being able to have that face-to-face contact, to ask questions in real time, and even to have somebody who understands the work that I do. So if, you know, I'm doing something globally, but if I have a trainer that's in a sub, you know, in a particular sales role, they're going to understand things about their organization that I have no idea about. Exactly. So Champions really took us and allowed us to go broad, but also deep in their own areas. And they've really made this their own. It's really awesome.
Very incredible Champions.
Yes. Yeah. So we wanted to do a pilot, get out 75 or so people. That's grown, I'm happy to say, to over 1,300 people today. Yeah. Again, completely opt-in, and I'm getting the 10-minute warning. No problem. I'll make it fast. Anyway, just a couple of core things you need to know if you're going to do a Champions program based on our learnings. One, find the people who are already your evangelists. If they are using Teams, if they're asking lots of questions about it, if you see them helping other people with their questions about Teams, those are the people that you reach out to. And I think because we did that, that's how it just took off.
Exactly.
They are the ones who went out and sold the program to others. Make it global right off the bat. That's what we did, and it grew really quickly. Make the champions recognizable. That's that badge that I was saying is part of, you know, it served to have people ask a question. They didn't know what the badge on the profile meant, but it opened the door, and that was huge.
And it engaged them to want more, right?
Exactly.
How do I get a badge? How do I get differentiated in the 200,000 pool of people at Microsoft? How can I be recognized?
That's right.
Right? And that was a game changer.
That was a super game changer. And then monthly, and also in the teams on a daily basis, keeping them in the know.
Yeah.
What's new? What did you find? What is the cool thing you found? Or how are you using Teams in your group? Or how are you evangelizing it? And so we did that through our monthly calls and through our Teams team for the champions private team. We train all champions how to deliver the training, the Art of Teamwork training I talked about. We give them a package, how to send out resources after they do the training, the deck, the walkthrough, everything they need to just turnkey this and take as little time as possible. And then we have training sessions they can attend to learn how to deliver it.
Yeah. And those global toolkits, these toolkits and these packages that we sent out, really great because they allowed people to customize it for their own regions, right, and countries. And roles. So what they did was, here's all the information. You take it and use it how you want within your region. But anything else you need, come to us and we'll help you. So, you know, it was very effective that way.
Effective. And they're rolling out all the admin training right now, and I'm hearing really good things too. So that's cool. And this is just a little bit, you know, like a one slide of kind of the nutshell of everything. Over 1,300 champions, 57 countries, 160 Microsoft buildings today.
Huge.
And you can see from April of last year to March of this year, you know, the huge uptake in buildings with meetings or with champions in them, in meetings, chat, retention, calling, all of the metrics. Those were the first pivot points when everybody still had it side by side to be able to, you know, start using Teams more frequently than Skype for Business. And just because it was asked about, I will talk very briefly again, lunch yesterday. So hopefully we'll have this to package together and, you know, get those people. They're already so super engaged. It's exciting, but it'll be really fun to go to this next gamification.
This is the next level.
The next level.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to stop with 5 minutes left if we've got any other burning questions.
Oh, we have questions. Trust me, we've got lots of questions.
Too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want you to know, Michael, like if you want to post some questions to us, we can always, you know, post it on a blog and make sure it's there for everyone. Yeah,
and I think I think we can get through the last questions. I know I see some others are coming in, but the last series of ones that I got. First of all, somebody asked about the art of teamwork. And they said, can that be open to the public? And if it is, can there be a link added to the materials?
Yeah, so we have given that over to the product group. Oh, the snackable videos and also the art of teamwork training.
Yeah.
And is it in the
Success with Teams in the toolkit for Teams? The art of teamwork training should be in there.
Okay.
We have provided that in there. So the snackable videos is what we're working right now with the product group. That what may happen is actually they're going to include it in the product itself as part of the bot, the help bot that's there. So we're working with them to get that in there. You know, and if not, then we've talked to people to actually publish those too, because we've had so many requests. For those.
Yeah. But toolkit for teamwork should be where the art of teamwork
on Success with Teams. If you go to successwithteams.com.
Yep.
Success with Team. I'm writing that down for me, so I make sure I had the link with teams.com. All right. The next one we had, and actually you answered, there were several questions, including snackables and all that. So that's great. The next one was around, people got very excited when you started showing Power BI metrics. The boards lit up. So, you know, we got asked about where they can get the data for measuring utilization. They would love that. And then, you know, how to, again, it was mostly around that. How can people do something similar in their org?
Good question, and I should have brought that up. All of that data is in the Office 365 Content Admin Pack. So there will be people inside your organization who have access to that back-end data. We developed for our own needs, we developed that view in Power BI. And the genius, Eileen, Joe, who developed that, has been working with the product group so that they can release some of those same views, especially for people who are going through Skype for Business to Teams transition like we are. So that is something that should, do you know what the status of the availability is?
I don't know the timeline. I know that they've worked on it. It's supposed to be available through the content pack.
Yes.
There is a version available in the content pack. We can do a follow-up and find out on the timing, but that's something that we have been, you know, working closely on because it's been in high demand.
So I have two last questions. That's perfect timing. So the first is from Jeff and says, can you give an example of some of your value propositions that you propose to users?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think we've kind of covered a lot.
Yeah.
So the first one I will reiterate absolutely is everything is persistent. I can have this conversation, I can work on this deck and these files with, my boss in one place, and it's there forever, and it's searchable, and we can co-auth on this presentation.
Exactly.
Remotely, whatever it is that we're working on, it's persistent, it's all in one place. I don't even have to leave. I don't even have to go out and open up and spin up other things like have Outlook and Skype and PowerPoint on its own. Can do it all within Teams. That's a huge piece of it.
Absolutely. We talked about seamless teamwork,
Yeah.
really being the vision for Teams, for this hub, being able to communicate, collaborate, and connect, having modern meetings, having simplified experiences, through calling and chat and meetings during conversations, during collaboration. That is huge. There's other value propositions.
Right.
If you're global organizations, Teams is in 44 different languages, right?
Yeah.
You can transcribe, you
That's
can
right.
have inline in transcription. There's all these really cool features that when I want to connect with a global team and chat and converse, they can do it in their own language, right?
Exactly.
And we can continue this communication without having to know how to speak that language.
Yep.
Last question is short and sweet. They said all areas of Microsoft products have MVPs. Does Teams?
Oh, of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely.
Absolutely. We have MVPs.
So that's it for our Q&A. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna push you to a side for a second.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here we go. So I need to share my desktop, and let's see, that should pop in. Boom, there we are. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining today. This has been a great session. You've been a great audience. If I missed anybody's questions, I apologize. I was doing double duty today, producing and trying to type away, and in the midst of it all, I ate my lunch. But thank you all for joining. It's been a great session. Certainly a thank you to our speakers, presenters. This has been, like I said, I knew we were going to have a lively session, and it did not fail to bring those results. So the next thing is we have a couple of next steps and call to action. Again, I've had a number of people asking me, will the recording be available? Where there be the resources, etc. It will all be on our blog, our Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences blog at aka.ms/HLS-blog. That's aka.ms/HLS-blog. And it was also asked, the resource links goes to a point drive in LinkedIn. And somebody asked, is that where everything's going? And yes, I'm iteratively adding through the week. So we're adding those pieces. And so the content from today's, we'll add that in there, and that'll be linked with the recording in the post. Also, if you want to know more about Microsoft Teams and get a customized deep dive for your organization, talk to your Microsoft reps. That's what we're here for. Folks like myself, we go on site, we do hackathons, we do on the fly, all kinds of fun stuff, and we're here to help, and we want to help you. Finally, tomorrow, same bat channel, same bat time. I got that backwards, but you get the idea. We are going to have another event taking off, and this is very cool. You can follow along. It's kind of like, do you guys remember the guy who had the big like 70s fro he painted?
Oh, Bob.
He had the term Bob.
My daughter was him for Halloween.
Yes. See? So he would have you follow along, and you'd paint. Let's now blend the white in with the green and the gray. Well, we're going to have something similar, but for Teams. So this is a Microsoft Teams use case workshop, so you can actually follow along around documents, dashboard, and collaboration. It's going to be exciting. So again, it's a kind of a paint by numbers, as you were. So be sure to join in. We'd love to have you. And again, big thanks to Pouneh and to Sara. You both rocked. This was great.
Thank you.
And,
That was awesome. That was a
thank you.
blast.
Good time.
Good luck this week. We'll be keeping an eye too.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Take care. And as always,
Tuesday.
ciao.